Welcome, Raceboat Lifers, to another day of Raceboat Life, where we've got our gauges in. We also have our steering in. So that means that we can complete the dashboard. And that's what I'm doing now. I just actually got the template laid out for the steering, and I already have my spots marked for the gauges. Now it's just more holes. Yeah, more holes. But they got to be there, so we'll just put them in and be done with it. We only have about 7 hole saws in stock. Lucky enough, 2 of them are the right sizes for these gauges because I've done them before in other boats. And yeah, they turned out quite well. I don't have the right size for the steering, so of course I had to whip out my jigsaw here and do that the old-fashioned way. And I'm just trying to make sure what passes through. Like the bilge pump here, I got it set back in place because it actually sticks out beyond the actual board itself. And the reason I have to do that is because now I have to transfer every one of these holes into the dashboard itself. But they also, some of them have to be exaggerated. The brackets for the gauges actually have to fit inside of the dashboard to the back of this board because they're only so big. So, and you know, the bilge pump, it only has one little thing that sticks out, so it's actually going to be smaller than the actual cutout for the board. It only has to have wires pass through basically, and one nub for a ground, but neither here nor there. It doesn't have to be as big. So but all those switches have to be actually be exaggerated again. So we're just going to make sure we don't butcher the dash, but at the same time we leave enough relief for all these pieces to go in place. But now I have to take everything back out, clean all this crap up, and move over to the dashboard and start hacking on it. Just checking out our core samples. Well, at least that's what they are now. They all look excellent too. Good coverage, no voids. Yeah, they actually look really good. And of course, the plywood, I didn't even realize how thick the plywood was. I think I may actually use 3/4 on that. Nice, solid. But it was a bit of a challenge to get through with a hole saw. I tell you, when you go through fiberglass, then wood, and more fiberglass, and it gets a little janking on the elbows and the wrists here. Our holes look a little odd, and I'll give you that. It's just because they're all round. Squares create stress cracks or stress points, which create stress cracks. So we made sure all of them are round and only as big as they need to be. And now when I slap that 3/4 inch piece of oak on the front of it, it'll actually stiffen it up even more. And that's the reason why I use 14 screws all the way around, because the board actually becomes part of the dash itself. And it helps with the structure. I mean, it's a big gap across here. You know, I mean, that's 6.5 feet wide. There's nothing holding up the center at all the way to the nose of the bow. So yeah, that's a high stress point, and a lot of people like to climb over the windshield. You know, they don't want to do it on the outsides. They always like to go right for the center, and that puts all that weight right there in the middle. So that extra, you know, 3/4 inch piece of oak on the outside, it's just that much more structure for it to hold together. But it's dark, or it's getting dark, and it's time for me to call it a night, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Welcome to another day. It's a beautiful day, that's for sure. It's a late start for us. We had other obligations, including rescuing a injured crow that's been bouncing around in our yard for the last couple days. Took him down to the local lady who takes care of the birds. Said should be okay. Maybe has a sprained wing. Either way, the top is still on a 19. It's a little late to even bother pulling it off at this point. So we are kind of in the garage, but the garage door is open and it's not raining, which means the humidity is down. Makes it a perfect day for doing this kind of stuff. Before we closed up shop last night, we went ahead and we stained the dashboard. Yes, stained ebony. Of course, the grain comes out real nice. I like this. I like it a lot. I think this is probably the best piece of ebony I've ever had turn out. I already did one coat of polyurethane. Yeah, what was it, about 3-4 hours ago. They said give it 2 hours and then go ahead with some 220 sandpaper and give it a life scuffing and then go over it again and then give it a couple more hours, do the same thing again and do a third coat, and then you should be set. And like I said before, I don't want this to look like plastic, so, but I definitely want to seal all the grain, and I want it solid. I don't want it to be where you can actually feel the grain still, you know. But that's pretty much my day. Like I said, it's pretty late already. As I said, it's like 6 o'clock, and I'm really not going to be able to get anything else done in the boat. And the reality is I need to get this thing done, so a lot of other things can get done, including the steering, including a lot of electrical work. That'll tie things up for a while, for sure. We did 5 coats. It's still wet now. Probably take all night to fully cure up, so we will see it and you tomorrow. Welcome to another day of rain. Yeah, we're kind of limited on what we could do today, so I guess we'll be headed towards the garage. Sad part about this rain is the other day we got rain, and like in an hour we got an inch. Today, it's been going on since early this morning, and this is the heaviest it's rained all day. And as you can see, my pavement isn't even wet. I mean, it's only half wet. So it's like one of these millimeter all day long rains, and it's just annoying as hell. So we're going to move on to something else. And of course, here's a look at our dashboard. Yeah, baby. Look at the glare of that bad boy. So I guess we'll be fooling a little bit with this today. I'm going to go ahead and get some of the preliminary wiring done. I know my lights for the gauges actually come over here to this switch. I know that the actual gauges get turned on themselves by the ignition switch, which is over here. You know, they actually have to be grounded, so I'm sure that's another one that's going to have to be taken care of. So I can start doing some of these things, some of these preliminary steps. When we get back in the boat, then it'll be time to start putting this thing together for real. So I will be back shortly. I had to get out my belt grinder here. Belt grinder, belt sander. At the moment it's grinding, so. And I've had to take these backers that they have that, you know, they go on the back of the thing and they hold the gauge in place. And actually trim them down to that. They had little nubs on you're supposed to take off. I don't know how thin that dashboard would have been. Probably a sheet metal, but these are actually boat gauges. I mean, they're made for boats, so I don't know if they would ever have a sheet metal dashboard unless, I don't know, who would put this gauge set in a John boat. But either way, yeah, they got to be ground down to about yay size instead of that size. And when I get that done, I'll be able to put them in the actual dashboard and I'll give you all a look. Well, I said I'd give you all a sneak peek. There they are. Alright, we've moved along a little bit here. I really can't move too far because I'll end up having to take everything back apart just to put it back together. But what I could do was make these jumper harnesses, what I call them, because I mean they just jump from gauge to gauge to gauge and ground them, and this is the ignition wire basically that turns them all on, you know, and it's just jump, 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 jump. And of course this is the lights for the gauges, which jump, jump, jump over to the switch. Now the harness itself for all the senders of course is in the boat, and a lot of the other things are going to be like dependent on where I position things, like this beautiful fuse box that I just upgraded big time. Basically we took the grounding blocks off of the bottom half of it and we're going to replace them with these, which are much more manlier, so I don't have to worry about wires pulling off of that block. But I'm not really positive where I want to put the fuse blocks yet, because maybe in the future there's a radio that goes over on this side, so I want to see if I can make sure I can keep it up as close as possible. But there also may be a future gauge that goes in there, so you know, it's kind of like a, I don't know until I actually get it there. And then from there, you know, it's a lot of wires that run from there over to the switches, and the switch wiring is already in the boat itself. But I won't know where the fuse box is until I locate it, and then I won't know how long the wires are, which case means I have to make extra long wires, wasting things, chop off little pieces that are useless. So my best thing to do is just leave it sit until we can put it in the boat. And along with that, I've also set up for a couple more projects, but I'm also finding that I'm setting up so far in advance that I'm having to take things from one project and move it to the other project. So we need to get a few things done before we continue on with setting up with more projects. But for now, it's pretty much a done night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Welcome to another day. As you can see, our dashboard is no longer in the garage, so that means two things. One, it's not raining, and two, we are ready to install. Yeah, we're just prepping up to get everything ready for the actual board install itself. That'll be step one, and then of course step two is to make all those wires up underneath that dashboard attached to something. So we have a full day, that's for sure. It's a pretty day too. It's nice out, a little breezy, but it's definitely work weather, that's for sure. That's for sure. So instead of trapped in the garage, we're actually going to get something done today, and see if we can actually move along a little bit, because all these wires, I mean, I got to get them all put away. I mean, there's just so many hanging everywhere, and I have my memory of everything of what's what. I mean, every wire is not color coded. I mean, every wire that leaves the fuse box is not going to have its own special color to go to a switch, and it's all in my head. And you'd be able to follow it if you had to chase something. You know, that would be easy enough. It's like, yeah, follow this yellow wire over to this one and do that and do that. But, you know, I mean, when every wire is laying on the deck, yeah, you got to keep those interior light wires away from the running light wires. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge to keep all this stuff in my head. So I'm ready to put it behind me and move along. So let's get this dashboard installed. Well, the dashboard's in. Yeah, and it fit in real nice too, which in a way was expected, but you know, with us it's always unexpected also. It's a happy surprise, how's that? And looks pretty darn good. I'm trying to keep it out of direct sunlight, being it's the first time it's been outside since it's been polyed. But the wind keeps wanting to blow the top off, so it doesn't have any shade. It seems to be standing up well. It's getting a little hot, that's what I'm afraid of. I just want it to, like, you know, set up for a couple days before it actually gets to about 150 degrees. I mean, that sun beating on it earlier, I touched it, it was hot. I was like, okay, it's enough, put the cover back over. And now I'm just doing this for a couple days. Like I said, I think it's, I don't know, 36 hours old. So Yeah, we're and some of those hours were very humid, so I don't want it to do anything crazy like make the board hot and then have some oil behind it leak out and cause a blister or something like that. Crazier things have happened, I'll tell you. Crazier things have happened. But along with that, now we're starting to chase down our wiring harnesses. We're not even touching the gauges yet. We haven't even got close to it. We're just trying to get some of the wiring harness in that general direction, along with what's on the other side over here. Like the trim pump runs over there, but the controller is over here. You know, we've got to basically trade sides with a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's another one of these projects where you pretty much take everything in the garage and bring it out to the boat. But we are making progress, which doesn't look like it out here, but if we take a look inside. So yeah, we're making progress, but there is a crap ton of wiring in this boat. Doesn't seem like it, but there really is. Everything it runs in the directions it's supposed to run. But our wiring harness is starting to come together. We really haven't fooled with the gauges any. Still got all our leads and everything still hanging. Just had to get the ground wire in the harness so I could actually get it over to the block. But this ignition wire actually that starts the gauges actually comes over to the key, so that's like no big deal either. You may have noticed all these lines all bundled up here together. That's actually going to be my battery terminal. I'm going to put a terminal right here. It's 1/4 inch. It's nothing really big, you know, and it's actually, this is for the trim pump line. One of the lines is. The other one's for the bilge pump. It's for the things you want on the battery. I figured the easiest way, if anybody wanted to add an amp meter or anything, is I actually already have the lines because they were in the harness. So I thought, what the heck, why don't I just bring them right over to here? We'll put a terminal in right there. We'll actually run the trim pump right to it, so it's actually got a battery terminal instead of actually running through the wire harness. And, well, I mean, it does run through the wire harness, but it, you know, it'll come to a terminal without anything, fuses or any other lines in between. And then from there, I'll run from the terminal to the key and run for the rest of the thing. So it's just a way of having, you know, 12 volt right off the battery power right here for the trim pump, and it don't have to put everything on the key. I really hate that. I mean, that's one of my pet peeves, is when you have 47 things all hooked to the key. There's enough that's going to be hooked on it already. There's 4 or 5 lines, I believe, that actually go to the key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and actually there'll be another one. So yeah, there's actually 6 lines that already go to the key. It doesn't need another 5 or 6, so this terminal over here will work out excellent for it. But before it gets dark here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish up these last ground lines. This grounding block is sweet. I'm telling you, it's sweet. You put something on this bad boy, you're going to rip the dashboard out before anything else happens to it. It's a whole lot nicer than that little, they just had little prongs here for a ground, and you had a nut here and you screwed the ground onto it. Yeah, that one's 100% better. But it's oodles and oodles of wiring. But compared to what it looked like a little while ago, it's miles ahead. And tomorrow we'll be able to finish this dog up real quick. And before I can call it quits, I gotta put all this stuff away and probably pull half of it back out again tomorrow. See you later. Welcome to another day where everything we took out of the boat yesterday, we reorganized and we're putting it back in today. That's the way it seems to go, but it was a big unorganized mess when we got out last night, so we cleaned up all our connections, our shrink wrap, everything else that goes along with it. And now we're getting ready to take it right back into the boat and make a mess out of it again. Lucky enough, we had a couple of our switches that are come in. I believe my ignition switch is due today. Fingers are crossed, but you know, I wouldn't hold my breath on deliveries which say they're going to be here at a certain time. I mean, if you look on Amazon, hell, they'll even say it was delivered, and then in fine print underneath of it it'll say maybe within the next 36 hours. So if it shows up, it shows up, but we got plenty to do. I'm going to go ahead and tackle, to use my made up famous word, and I'm going to tackle the rest of the dashboard and get rest of the wiring done up until the point of what's missing. I don't have the horn button yet. Yeah, it's just one wire in and out, but it will be something that's going to be sitting, because I just looked it up and it said the delivery date is probably another 2 weeks away. So I don't know. I wish Amazon would quit doing stuff like that. You know, I mean, I'm willing to pay the extra 50 cents or whatever it is for the darn thing if it's coming from Ohio or California or Florida. When it comes from Asia and it takes 6 weeks to get here, the 50-cent saving is really not worth it. But with that, as I said, it's a pretty day. It's not raining for the second day in a row, which is just almost abnormal for this year. So we're going to go ahead and finish up what we can, and we will update you as soon as we get something looking pretty. Almost forgot about you guys. Hey, how's it going? That's a big difference from earlier. We're all done all the way across. Everything's 100% except for our terminal right here. We really can't even check anything because everything's unplugged still. And this is our horn wire. We don't have a horn. Don't know what we're going to do for a horn. I really don't want to cut a hole in the deck for a horn. A future dilemma to deal with, but not right now. It's wired, it's ready to go. You plug it in, hit the button, which is not in also. But yeah, there's like 2 things that are missing here. And one of them happens to be the horn button. The other ones happen to be all the courtesy lights. You know, like there and there. And up here behind the dash. All of them haven't come in either. We've got our switches in, lights, lots of lights in this boat. You know, there's anchor light, there's interior lights, that's on one switch, and then of course there's dash lights and there's running lights. And then of course our bilge pump is all wired in right. Our switch came in today, our key switch, so that's installed 100%. All the gauges are done 100%, the fuse panel, everything else is done. The trim switch is all the way up to here. I need a controller for right here, and I'm having a hard time finding one. And I'm looking for a certain kind that I actually used in the 19, in my 19. And yeah, it turned out really well, and it was really easy to do just with that one. But I tried another one prior to that, and it was a real drag. So I really want the same one, but it's a little tough to come by at the moment. So we're just working on that, but we got all winter, you know. Okay. As I said, ta-da! We're going to work on our steering tomorrow, and anything else that may come in. We're winding down here quickly. Next thing we're going to be talking about is upholstery, which is, oh jeez. I don't know if I can get that far ahead, but I mean, we do have this situation back here, but the motor's not ready. I mean, I have everything except for like the exhaust water pump and everything else that goes on a motor, because I used it all in my race boat over there. So it just all came off, and now I guess, what do they call it? It's not like a short block, a long block. I don't know. It's complete intake to oil pan, but it still needs some other stuff done, including motor mounts. So you can't even actually set what we do have in place. So we weren't ready for that, and we haven't built our motor box either, so we're not so done. But I gotta make a quick trip to Home Depot so I can get some bolts, so tomorrow when we get home we can actually put the steering in, and a couple other minor things. I'll see you tomorrow. A little bit of playing with some holes here, and none of that came out right. That plane is smoking for as low as it is. What if they went to the wrong airport? Alright, we're going to do this again. No, that ain't working. Ain't working. As it goes by, 1, 2, 3. Alright, we're going to try this one more time, because that didn't come out at all. Oh, damn. Alright, we're going to start over again. went ahead last night and I went ahead. Last carburetor we got was junk. Junk, I tell you. Junk! Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Alright, that should be good enough. And 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's another one of these projects. I should have waited 1, 2, 3. You gonna be able to see all that, Mr. Camera? There we go. So instead of trapped in the garage, we're gonna be trapped in a boat. Huh, well, we're live, aren't we? We'll just do it live!